Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are going to check out another brand new Mattel Jurassic World figure, and this time we have yet another epic attack figure, as we've got the Dilophosaurus. We have already taken a look at the Carnotaurus and the Velociraptor. Now we've got the Dilophosaurus. All are just starting to hit Walmarts across the United States, so hopefully if you have a Walmart near you, you might have these there already, or maybe very soon, but I was really quite excited to see some new Jurassic stuff lately because it's been a little bit actually since we had some new stuff, probably about a month or so, maybe even a little longer since we actually had some new Jurassic stuff starting to hit some stores. But again, this looks like it's kind of a cool figure, but at the same time, I don't think it's quite as nice as the recent Velociraptor was. Not that that figure was a masterpiece, because it was far from it, but I thought it was a pretty cool figure. This one, not quite as nice as the Velociraptor, but I'm still pretty hyped to have a new Dilophosaurus here to take a look at. You can see the packaging looks pretty much exactly the same as the Velociraptor's packaging did, of course, except for the fact that we have images of the Dilophosaurus instead of the raptor. And then here on the back, you can again see we've got a nice shot there of the Dilophosaurus figure, and then a image down here that shows off the Velociraptor. I was just speaking of the JP3 male raptor that we've already taken a look at. So let's pop it out of the box and check it out. So here is our Dilophosaurus, and I definitely can say with confidence I don't like this one as much as I like the Raptor. Like, there's no doubt in my mind now actually having it out of the packaging and taking a look at it. It has the same thing that I kind of had mentioned about the Raptor that I wasn't a big fan of, and that's the fact that the tail's a bit shorter than it usually is. So we have kind of a short, stubbier tail. But on top of that, one thing that I really don't like about this figure is the fact that, wow, look at how fat that face is. I didn't even notice that before, but wow, his face is super wide. But it's the fact that we do have the frill here, but the frill doesn't extend out. Like, it's completely immovable, doesn't go anywhere at all. So really not a big fan of that at all. But I mean, it's interesting. I feel like maybe the Dilophosaurus wasn't a prime candidate for this type of figure, especially with having a frill. If anything, they should have just not given it a frill at all and then released it without the frill. I think it would have been nicer had it not had a frill. Definitely takes away from the figure, in my opinion, pretty big as far as that goes. It's just kind of an eyesore to have the frill there and not have it, move or articulate or do anything with like an action feature. Like, it just doesn't really make sense to me, because the Dilophosaurus, if it were to have its frill back, in a more relaxed position, it would actually be down here kind of, encasing the neck and throat. Whereas this usually is only occurring if the frill is extended. So it doesn't make much sense to have it like this. It just is kind of pointless, if you ask me. Regardless, let's go ahead and jump to a closer look at this right now. So starting up here at the head sculpt of our Dilophosaurus, when you take a look at it from the side, you get a nice side profile. It doesn't look terrible. It has some nice looking fine detail, some nice looking skin texture, and kind of sort of looks like a Jurassic Park or Jurassic World style Dilophosaurus. We've got some nice greenish tones here for the face. You can see some variation of color there up and over the top of the eye, streaking into the palate, and you can also see some really cool yellows up there in the crest of the Dilophosaurus. We do also, actually, you have a yellow eye and a black pupil, which is nice to see a black pupil. We do also have an articulated jaw for the figure. I can see some of the kind of pinkish tone there for the inside of the mouth has sort of leaked out onto the lip of my Dilophosaurus, but that's just a really minor little nitpick. I'm sure that's not something that's widespread, just a little sloppiness. You can see the inside of the mouth, again, has a nice gloss coat. The teeth look pretty good as far as the paintwork and everything goes, fairly precise. Nicer looking than my Raptor looked, because there was a little hint of sloppiness on the inside of the mouth of my Raptor, but they don't really have that going on here for the Dilophosaurus. So that is a plus. And the jaw does work pretty nicely. And I love having figures that just have straight up articulated jaws. But you can again see when we go up here and take a look at it, that face is so wide. Like, it looks like a steamroller ran over the head of the Dilophosaurus and kind of squished it out a lot. And somehow the crest still stayed intact. But As you lead back here into the frill, again, we do have a frill that is completely non-articulated. You have some decent looking detail, maybe a little bit washed out compared to most Mattel sculpts, but you can see we have a nice mixture of yellows and reds that kind of splotch and design all through the course of the frill, giving it, a flashy look, pretty much exactly what you would want to see in the frill of a Dilophosaurus, as that's the way it's always been portrayed, with some flashier kind of, intimidating colors in the frill. But again, the fact that it doesn't articulate, it doesn't move at all, makes this so weird and just pointless, if you ask me. But you can see the detailing on the back of the frill looks okay again. Definitely looks better here on the back of the frill, honestly, than what it looked like on the front of the frill. As you look down the course of the neck, you can see that we have the spinal column running along the back of the dinosaur. Some okay looking skin texture. There is definitely a speckling. I'm starting to pick up on that already, as we have like a blackish speckling. No articulation in the neck yet again, just like we saw on the raptor. As you lead back here into the back of the dinosaur, though, we have more of that kind of brownish tone like we saw up in the eye socket area pick back up, and only for a brief period of time here up in the mid-back. You can kind of see it run around here and design down, and also kind of spot down here along the side, but that's really about it. As quickly as it shows up, it's gone again, and we actually don't have any color variation for the underside, so there is quite a bit, not a whole lot, but definitely less paintwork on this one than there was for the Velociraptor. We do also have nicely sculpted arms for the most part. You can see that the hands are sculpted pretty decently. No nail paint. They do, I think, yes, they do articulate. They don't go too far, actually. You can see that's really about it. You don't get too much mobility with them, but they do move a little bit. Seems like the left arm goes back closer to the body a little further than the right arm does. And then we also, of course, have the damage area here, the epic damage part of our Dilophosaurus, which you can see again, the injuries are sculpted out on that area. And then as you lead back up here, you definitely can continue to pick up on the speckling through the course of the figure, which is nice to have a little extra color variation. We then have the Jurassic Facts app code as well, if you would like to add this one to your collection. But then as you move down the course of the leg, you can see the muscle definition and everything, the nice looking skin texture, which the fine detail does look really quite nice on this, as it always does on a Mattel figure. You've got a fairly decent looking foot sculpt here. Again, no nail paint, but it does have sort of a glossy shine to it, so it almost insinuates nail paint. And then as you lead back up here into the tail, again, you lead back out toward the tail. Very similar pose to the tail of this, like we had seen on the Velociraptor. Almost makes me wonder if it's the exact same tail, because it kind of leads out, curves, and then curves back, and that's exactly what the raptor did. But again, the same short, kind of stubby looking tip to the tail as well, and it's also quite shorter than it probably should be. And to bring the Velociraptor tail in, you can see they are definitely different tails, but they look similar. The raptor, though, actually has a longer tail. Like if we actually go from the area of the seam, quite a bit of a longer tail than the Dilophosaurus does, which I guess is yet another downside about this figure over the raptor. But as you lead back over here to the opposing side, you can again see the head sculpt looks pretty, decent as far as the fine detail goes. Nice looking paintwork, no sloppiness that I'm really seeing on this side. As you lead back, just like with the Velociraptor, we have that opening for the sound to escape from. But what I liked about the Velociraptor, if you look here at the raptor, the area that's kind of showing the open area for the sound to escape from looks like slices in the dinosaur, whereas the Dilophosaurus doesn't really have that going on. It just looks like straight up, openings for the sound to escape from, rather than that kind of injury type look. So yet another downside for the Dilophosaurus over the raptor. And then as you lead through the course of the body, you can see that this leg is a little bit further forward than the other leg, and that's really about the only difference you're going to pick up on, I would think, on this side compared to the other one. We do, of course, also have articulated legs. A little bit stiff currently, but they move kind of okay. Oh, wow, that one's really stiff. That one is actually pretty darn stiff overall. They do articulate the first leg here. The left leg is a little smoother than the right leg, but honestly, as a whole, this is quite a bit worse than the Velociraptor was, and I can understand why so many people dislike this Dilophosaurus now even more so in person. I honestly wasn't really trying to judge it too much. I didn't think it was great, but I also didn't think it was terrible, and I still don't think it's the worst thing in the world, but probably one of the least enjoyable Mattel figures I've had in quite some time. And then we'll go ahead and check out the kind of, epic damage feature of the figure. So straight away, we can see the light works really nice. I actually think the light's a little more vibrant on this one than it was on the Velociraptor, but the sound was awesome. Like, that sounded super cool, and obviously that's when the Dilophosaurus would extend its frill, something we can't do with the figure, but that was really, really cool. Same deal for that. Similar sound, but different. It's pretty impressive to me that every sound effect that this Dilophosaurus seems to have is an attack sort of sound effect, but we have our Dilophosaurus with its frill, you know, kind of in a more, well, I wouldn't say relaxed position, but it's not exactly extended, making the figure look like it's not attacking. So I would have actually enjoyed some more kind of classic Dilophosaurus noises. Just because we don't have the frill extended, we'll go ahead and turn the lights back on, get a size here. For a length from the tail to the snout, you're looking at about 7 3/4 inches, or right around 19 and a half, actually close to 20 centimeters, I would say. And then for a height, the highest point is definitely the top of the frill, about 5 inches, or just shy of 13 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Dilophosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Dilophosaurus, showing you that it's pretty much exactly in the size range you would expect it to be. If you are familiar with the Velociraptor, it's very, very similar in size. And to further show you that, there is the Velociraptor and Dilophosaurus next to each other. Again, just to show you that they are overall very similar in size as a whole. But just like with the Velociraptor, the more important size comparison would be next to a standard Mattel Dilophosaurus. Now here's where you can definitely see an increase in size. The difference between the normal size raptor and Epic Attack version wasn't all that different. Definitely a bit bulkier, but not that different. But here we can see that the newer Dilophosaurus, the Epic Attack version, is quite a bit larger than the standard Mattel release of a Dilophosaurus. So on top of being thicker, it overall is definitely a bit larger. So this brand new Mattel Jurassic World Epic Attack Dilophosaurus isn't such a good figure, and it's definitely the worst of the Epic Attack line so far. And again, like I had said with the Velociraptor, I know a lot of people aren't exactly huge fans of this line. I think it has the action feature, the entire idea behind it has a lot of potential, but it's not being utilized perfectly so far. The Carnotaurus was great. I loved the Carnotaurus. The Velociraptor was pretty cool. I didn't dislike it. I thought it was a pretty decent figure. The Dilophosaurus, though, is kind of a disaster. This one is definitely nowhere near as nice as the others. I do kind of like the increase in size. I know a lot of people don't like the larger size of these figures, but I do like it. I think it's nice to have a bit of a different size range for a Dilophosaurus, but the problems are pretty abundant through the course of the figure. First of all, the arm articulation is severely limited on this. The head is incredibly wide, making it look super awkward. The frill being extended, but not actually extended, like it's not relaxed. You know, they have the frill kind of like up and ready to go to be in that sort of defensive position, but it's not actually extended to look like it is, makes the entire frill area useless. It would have been just so much better to have the frill in more of a relaxed position or not there at all. I would have probably just preferred not to have the frill. The opening for the sound effects doesn't look as nice as it did on the Velociraptor because it doesn't really look like an injury anymore. It looks more just like holes in the side of the figure, making it more of an eyesore rather than kind of like a battle damage feature. The paintwork of this as well is kind of lazy. You know, it's not really that great. We don't have much going on as far as coloration, and we actually have even less on this than we did on the Velociraptor, I would say, or maybe with the fact that we, I guess, have coloration in the frill, it might be fairly similar, but as a whole, the paint job doesn't really look that great. It's not exactly a memorable paint scheme that they've come up with. It's okay, I guess, for what it is. I did also actually, in the Velociraptor and this review, did forget to mention that the figures do have swivel tails, so we do have that extra little bit of articulation there, something I did forget to mention. But honestly, the only real redeeming factor of this figure, I think, is the fact that the Epic Attack or Epic Damage feature of the figure is really cool, and I like the sound effects that they have for it, something that I don't really recall on any of the previous Dilophosaurus were the ability to have sound on them so far. So it is really neat to have some sound on this one. Maybe it happened and I don't remember, but I don't really recall. So the sound effects are really cool. The fact, again, that the injury looks like skin until you push the button and then it lights up. The injury is really, really neat. I really love that. And it's actually quite vibrant here on this Dilophosaurus, even more than the Velociraptor. So as a whole, this one's not quite as much of a recommendation from me as the Velociraptor was. Again, I do like the Velociraptor, even though that one does have some problems as well. But this Dilophosaurus definitely has quite a bit worse of a general appearance and a lot worse wrong with it than the Velociraptor did. Regardless, if you are interested in picking this up, you can pick it up hopefully at your local Walmart if it is available. If not, it should be there very soon because it seems like they're starting to trickle out throughout the United States pretty much everywhere. So if you are interested, again, head to your local Walmart. Hopefully it'll be there, and make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.